Okay, hi everybody. So you can call me best friends or you can call me Jenny. Don't really care which. I got tagged in the cross stitch tag by Stitching My, I believe is how you pronounce it. Um, uh, so big thanks to her for all the compliments on my cross stitching, and I guess I'll try this cross stitch tag. Still kind of new to all of the online cross stitching stuff, so we'll see how it goes. She has a list of questions that she asked me to answer, so I will try to answer them to the best of my ability that I can remember. How did you start, or who introduced you to cross stitch? My dad, believe it or not, is actually the one that introduced me to cross stitch, and it's kind of funny because he is not someone that you would actually think of as being a cross stitcher. He's kind of a very big man. When I say big, I mean muscular. Big arms, works out, works at a power plant. So yeah, definitely not the kind of person you think that's cross stitching. But when I was about, I want to say like 8 or 9, I went digging through my mom's craft room, and I actually found some of the cross stitches which I thought were hers, and she told me that they were actually my dad's, and that they were projects that he had been working on since they got married. Um, and this was back in like 1998, 1999 time, and they've been married for several years before then. And for those who are curious, I'm 23, so I've been cross stitching for a little while. Um, but we also had some hanging up around the house that again I thought she had done, and she told me that they were his, and it inspired me to start stitching. And so that's kind of how I started, was just kind of goofing off with trying to finish some of his unfinished projects. Um, Favorite theme or design? That one kind of differentiates. If it's for me, I am more partial to like outdoor type themes, like animals, deer, foxes, tigers, zoo animals. I guess would be the best, but more like the cats and deer and that kind of stuff. I also like dogs, but mostly like the hunting dogs, like Weimaraners, pointers, black labs. Labs are like one of my big things, mainly because I have one. What floss or brand do you use? Mostly DMC. I've actually never tried any other floss, and I've only tried DMC's basically baseline floss that they use for most of my projects, and I believe most of my kit projects also use DMC. Um, that's really all I use. I've never tried anything else. I don't know that I can find anything else where I shop at, which is mostly Walmart or Hobby Lobby. So that's pretty much what I use. What is your fabric choice? That one really depends on the project I'm doing. Like right now, I've got a Heaven and Earth design going, which is right there next to me. That I'm using even weave for, just because it's really, 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 really tiny holes, and it's like the most challenging project I've ever done. But I use Aida, I use even weave. I'm kind of more partial to the even weave when I do the larger projects. When I do the smaller projects, I prefer Aida, but really it depends on the project I do. Number 5, do you use a needle threader or are you a floss licker? Well, I confess wholeheartedly I'm a floss licker. Mostly that's because I don't have a needle threader. I did at one point, and yeah, I had a little black lab mix that decided to chew it to bits. And so, yeah, I no longer have a needle threader. So, at current point in time, I'm a thread licker. Or trying to see, I'll bend the thread and feed it that way instead of licking the floss, because I know it kind of frays the ends real bad on it. I know you can't see that because the thread's too thin. What kind of stitching frame do you use? It is a Hobby Lobby buy. I honestly cannot remember the name of it. It's like the main brand that they use. I use square frames, round frames. I've got 2 different stands actually that I use depending on the size of the project. For my Heaven and Earth design, I'm sure you can see the floor stand that I use in the frame. I have the one that's very similar to this that's meant more for round hoops, so it just depends on the size of the project. But those are the 2 that I normally use, and I usually use plastic frame hoop, or round plastic hoops. Let me see if I've got one over here. I usually use these type hoops. I've got this size all the way up to the great big round ones. So really it just depends on the type of project that I'm doing. How many projects have you finished? That one I honestly cannot answer. I have lost track. I've been stitching since I was 9. Some have taken me 2 years to do. Some have taken me a few months to do. I would say probably in the upwards of probably 30, 40 projects easily. A lot of really small ones, some very big ones. So really it's hard to tell you how many that I've done because I keep so many going at a time. How many completed works do you have hanging in your home? 1. Yeah, I know. It's sad. I've got 1. I've actually got 3 cross-stitch projects hanging up in my home, but 2 of them my dad did, which are 2 fairies, a day and a night fairy that he did for me. But yeah, I only have 1 that I actually did that's hanging up in my home, which I believe I have in a different picture of in a different video. Do you stitch gifts or keep for yourself? I'm a gift giver. The one that's hanging up in my home is actually my husband's that I did for him. My dad's got 1 of them. My grandmother's got 1. My mom's got 1. Gracious, I don't even know how many I've done. The one I've actually been videotaping is a gift for my cousin for her wedding. This big one that I'm doing right here is actually for my husband, so I will hopefully eventually have 2 hanging up in my home. All these little ones are, yeah, there's no telling who they're going to go to. My next one that I start is probably going to be a gift for my soon-to-be new aunt, which that one will probably come at a later date. So, yeah, I'm big on, in fact, I get cross-stitch kits for Christmas a lot, or cross-stitch patterns for Christmas, and they usually turn around and end up getting gifted out. But my joy is working on the project, not so much, and seeing the finished project and seeing the look on their face when they get it. So that for Christmas a couple years ago, I did one for my dad, and I put it in a World of Warcraft box, and he thought it was the game instead of the cross-stitch, and the look on his face was priceless when he opened it. Favorite finished stitcher project? Oh, gracious, that one's a hard one because I like all of them that I do. I like seeing the finished design. I've actually got 2 favorites that were finished, and that would have to be one that I did for my grandfather, which is, I believe it's the Seaside Prayer, or the Seaside Poem, where it talks about, the 2 set of footprints, and then after a while you only see one, the person thank God abandoned them, and, that's where he talks about carrying them instead, and it was a seaside theme, and I absolutely love that one. And then I have to say my second favorite would have to be the 3 adult yellow, black, and chocolate labs that I did for my dad that I gave him for Christmas, because the look on his face when he got it was absolutely priceless. And they have currently have a yellow lab that is about 110 pounds, and we have a yellow lab. And growing up, my parents had a chocolate lab named Hershey, and he was an absolute angel, and is actually an angel now because he passed away back when I was 16, 17. So it's been several years, about 7 years, I want to say, something like that. Anyway, it's been a little while since he passed away. So the only one we haven't had is a black lab, but my parents and my husband and me are all big on labs, so it's just any cross stitch that has labs in it is just, it means a lot to me, especially when they remind me of any of the labs that we've had growing up and stuff. Least or worst experience while stitching? Actually, I have an unfinished project that is currently sitting in my cabinet that I sadly need to get rid of. It was one I was doing for my little sister. It was kittens in a basket full of crochet yarn, and a lab mix puppy that I had, which was the same one that tore up my needle threader, got a hold of this thread and tore it to bits. And when I say he tore it to bits, I mean I have pieces that are about yay long for almost one entire color. And on top of that, I went to try to continue stitching and just try to get new color to match as closely to that color as possible. And I have a hole about like that in a place where I have not finished where I have not even come close to stitching. So I am now completely unable to finish that project, and that was probably one of the worst experiences I've had, stitching, which is sad because I wanted to finish that project because I was only like a third of the way from being finished. Love and hate about stitching. I absolutely love stitching. I love it. It's relaxing. It's calming. If I've had a bad day, I'll go sit down and stitch for an hour and a half. Um, it just, I listen to music or watch videos or watch Let's Plays when I do it, just mostly as background noise. Um, I can step away from it easily if I need to. I don't have to sit and watch, sit and work on it for hours at a time to be able to do. Hate about stitching, I can't stitch enough. I've got so many projects going, and it seems like every time I turn around, I've got 20 more I want to do, and there's never enough time to finish them all. I've got probably two cross stitch projects that are put up in a box right now that I haven't worked on, which is one for my little sister, which is a bird one, and another that is a stamp cross stitch that I am just doing just to try. And then of course I've got my Heaven and Earth design one here, which is massive, and I've only gotten like three or four pages out of like 60 done. I've got my cousins, which I'm trying to get finished, and then I've got 3 or 4 little projects that I just kind of use to break up the monotony, but there's just never enough time to finish them all, and I swear I probably will have project ideas for cross-stitching until I am well into my probably like 130 years old, and so far under the ground it ain't even funny. Introduced anyone else to stitching? I tried introducing my little sister-in-law, who is 10, and it didn't work out too well. She just not really interested in it. She was cool with it when I first started helping her. So really, no, I haven't introduced anyone. I tried my sister too, and she did one little bitty Christmas tree project, and that was it. So, what was your first project, and did you finish it? My first project was actually trying to work on one of my dad's big blankets that was a bunch of ducks, and no, I did not finish it. My first finished project, oh gracious. I honestly can't remember my first finished project. I've done so many. The last one or the very first one I really remember doing and completing that I gave to somebody. Actually, I can't even remember that. Like I said, I have done so many projects that I can honestly not remember. I've still got 4 or 5 of them that are meant for gifts that I haven't even given to them yet, just because I don't see them enough and I don't have addresses and stuff like that to send to them. So, last one. How do you store your floss? Well, for my Heaven and Earth design, tackle box, floss threaders. That's how I store for that one, and then my excess is all down there, still on the space. For the one I'm doing for my cousin, again, little tackle box, floss threaders, and that's the kit. For some of my smaller projects, I just put them on a piece of cardboard, let them hang free. So it really, I do both ways, just kind of whatever I have available to me. So there is my cross stitch tag. I hope you enjoyed. If there's any other questions y'all have, don't hesitate to ask. So now let's see if I can get this thing loaded. And yeah, I'm Jenny. Yeah, I know I look young, but I promise I'm 23. So yeah. Anyway, bye.